Good morning, great people. It's Tracy again, your wellness and success life coach, coming on again to talk about boundaries. So, we've talked about what boundaries are, define them, why you should have boundaries, and how to build boundaries. Today, I'm going to be discussing some of my notes from an article that I read on Psych Central by licensed clinical social worker Sharon Martin. It was posted back in July of 2006. And so, some key gems from her article are about boundary violators. Now, boundary violators can be manipulative people. Sorry, manipulative people. Need some coffee. Manipulative people, people who are narcissistic, and people that have a poor sense of themselves. So that's manipulative, narcissists, and people who have a poor sense of themselves are the type of people that continually violate boundaries. Um, it is difficult depending on the relationship that you have with these people, these violators. It's difficult to build or set boundaries depending on the relationship. So, a relationship setting a boundary with your child or your mother or a family member is going to be different than a neighbor or a friend. Of course, it's going to be easier to set boundaries for the latter than those that are close to you and your family. Um, what else did she say? The length of time. So, some boundaries you may have set, and depending on the length of time, is how you should detach yourself from the person or individuals. Meaning that if you set a boundary, say last week with somebody because you didn't like how they spoke to you or something like that. Okay, that was last week. But say you set a boundary with someone last year and they continually violate it. Okay, so violation of a boundary of mine would be I don't take calls after 10 p.m. unless I want to, and before 8 a.m. unless I want to. That's why I put my phone on Do Not Disturb. Now, someone that would violate that would be when I wake up in the morning and see that someone was calling me like 11, 12 a.m., 2 a.m. It's like, okay, I told you this last year that I turned my phone on Do Not Disturb, so what would be the emergency that you'd be calling my phone like that? I could see if it was a family emergency or a true emergency, but just to call someone's phone, that's a violation of boundary. And if I told you that last year, more than likely I wouldn't talk to you no more. You'd be cut off. If I told you that last week, I'll give you some space and grace because I just told you, so you're not accustomed to it as yet. But yeah, but it depends on the length of the relationship and the type of the relationship. Another thing that she talks about is the person that's setting the boundaries. Are you, meaning the individual, truly setting these boundaries with clear and concise rules? And when someone violates, are you enforcing it? That's important too. You can't just let people slide, otherwise they will take advantage of you. And then you'll people like me don't want to hear about that. Like, you set the boundary, but then, oh, well, it was this, or oh, I felt bad. No, it doesn't matter. The boundary is about you, about protection for yourself. You have to protect yourself at all costs in order to be whole, in order to be well, emotional wellness, just whole wellness. And the next thing she talks about is if a violator is a child or a minor. Of course, you have to handle that differently. You go to the parent, more than likely, like if a child is riding their bike on your lawn and you ask them to stop and they continually do it, or if somebody's dog is pooping on your lawn and you continually ask them, don't walk your dog there, please, to the little kid, and they continue to do it, then you go to the parent. Now, sometimes the parents will abide, but then sometimes you got these parents that are just as hard headed as the kids, and then you got to take other steps like call the police, because guess what? I said don't walk your dog on my lawn, or stop riding your bike on my grass. There's a reason why we have boundaries. This is my plat of land. Go over on your plat of land and do that. Again, the other thing she talks about is if someone's violent. So, say you have a restraining order against someone and they violate the boundaries, time to call the police and maybe, get you some other sort of protection. Because, again, you have to protect yourself at all costs. And the reason why a restraining order is there is because you was violent towards someone, and that's why they put rules and regulations around those boundaries. So now if you decide to step over those boundaries, that's on you. But of course, some people who, like we talked about, the violators being manipulative and narcissistic and not having a sense of self, they'll be looking at you trying to play reverse psychology like it's your fault. No, it's not my fault. You knew that I had a restraining order. You knew you was violent. You knew what was going to happen. So don't turn around on me. But people who don't have a good sense of self, the boundary setter or the people pleasing boundary setter or the ones that still, oh, I feel so bad, they'll continue to let these cycles go on. And they may or may not call the police. And then that person again is going to harass you. So then it's on you because you didn't do what you needed to do to protect yourself. Boundaries. Have a great Monday, everybody.